the 3 master keys to unstoppable confidence. Now, I will not waste your time. I like to get right to the point. I'm going to pack a lot of powerful information in here for you, so you'll want to have a pen and paper ready to take notes. Now let's get right down to the business of giving you the 3 master keys to unstoppable confidence in your life. Confidence is crucial. Confidence affects literally everything you do in your life, everything in your life, from the quality of your relationships, to your personal peace and power, to your money making, to the quality of your sex, your fitness, your healing, are all affected by your confidence. The confidence you radiate can make the difference between whether or not someone attacks you. Yes, your confidence can affect your very survival and your quality of life. True, genuine confidence is a very powerful mental and energetic force that gives you the edge you need in every situation. You see, confidence radiates a certain frequency. We human beings are two-way magnets. We're literally magnets. That's why when they take a brain scan, they call it an MRI or a magnetic resonance image. We are literally constantly radiating at a certain frequency, and when you radiate confidence, you radiate power and you attract what you want. Confidence makes life more fun. Confidence gives you the boost you need to transfer your feelings to your mate and have them eagerly reciprocate, or share your message with the world, or make the sale, or even get a raise at work. See, confidence makes you feel better and do better and be more attractive. In fact, it's been proven that confidence is the #1 factor in attractiveness, even more than money and looks. Ultimately, there is nothing in your life that isn't improved and empowered by increasing your confidence. And what most people don't know is that confidence is an acquired skill that you can increase, and you're going to acquire that skill and increase your confidence right on this webinar. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background so that you know who you're talking to. As I said before, my name is Scott Bolan. I'm a master coach, trainer, author, and philosopher. My programs have sold millions around the world, and through my seminars, books, articles, audio, and video teachings, I reach and empower thousands of people every year. But it wasn't always that way. You're about to discover how I was born in adversity, rose up to success, lost everything, and then found the master keys to become a conqueror and completely transformed my life. And you can do the same. Now listen, I was born in white trash poverty. I was raised by a single parent, and we constantly moved around to poor, bad neighborhoods. In fact, for many of my childhood years, I lived in a shack with no running water, and sometimes it would get infested with rats and black widows, and I literally had to tear out the drywall to get out the rat's nest and get foggers for the spiders. Now, I know some people have it worse, and I'm not playing my violin here. I'm just trying to give you my background so you know who you're talking to. And my parents divorced when I was 2 months old. So coming from a broken home and poverty, I didn't have a lot of confidence and not necessarily a lot of options or smarts. But fortunately, and this is super important, I discovered the martial arts at the age of 8. That started one night when I heard some shouting from a rundown carpet warehouse in one of those bad neighborhoods I lived in. I shouldn't have been out there at night at 8 years old. Anyways, I peeked in and I saw 12 people in wrinkled, sweaty karate uniforms, nothing fancy, doing some serious fighting stuff. They were listening to an older Japanese guy who had cauliflower ears and knuckles. You could literally tap on his knuckles and hear them tap. It sounded like rocks and felt like rocks. His English wasn't very good, and his black belt was so worn it almost looked gray. But he commanded a quiet confidence and authority and respect. And there was something there that was not only truly badass, but also spiritual. And I just knew I had to get in on this. So I waited around and I kept coming back and pestering him until he let me in the class. The rest of the students were adults, but I was pretty tall as a kid, and eventually I earned their respect. And this wasn't one of those strip mall McDojos of today that give out gold stars and candy to kids who do their homework. Training was tough, hard, and 3 hours a night, and you often saw blood, sweat, and tears. but you also saw the development of the true warrior spirit and mindset. So because of this, I began to develop a powerful inner strength and resolve and a sharpening intuition. And this warrior mindset affected all of my life and everything I would end up doing. So I began to study and immerse myself in the martial arts passionately and studying it deeply, reading everything I could get my hands on. I got my first black belt at 18 and went on in later years to train with the who's who in the martial arts, getting multiple black belts and advanced instructor degrees. I'm one of the rare few Americans to be hand-trained and certified black belt by the legendary Ben Mangles, the chief martial arts instructor to the South African military. I became very proficient and formidable and would often give private lessons in my backyard or at clients' homes while I worked on a burgeoning music career promoting concerts in nightclubs in Hollywood and managing artists. And I even got to tour the world with platinum artists. It was a lot of fun. But the night that changed my life was the night that I discovered Bruce Lee's fighting art and philosophy, Jeet Kune Do. Now, as I said, I'd been trained by the best of the best, many of whom graced the cover of Black Belt magazine. But my most influential instructor was Bruce Lee's original Chinatown student, Dan Lee. Dan passed away a few years ago, and I dearly miss him. He was a very powerful yet humble and gracious man. Dan had a backyard class at his home in LA on Wednesday nights that he would teach for 3 hours. The first hour and a half was Wing Chun because he wanted to teach us what Bruce had been taught by Ip Man. Dan wanted us to learn Bruce's foundation as Bruce himself learned it. The second hour and a half was Jeet Kune Do as Bruce Lee taught it to the original group of LA students. Dan wanted us to learn what Bruce taught directly. These were magical times that I will remember forever, as Dan would often go back there in time and share amazing stories and teachings and insights he got directly from Bruce Lee. And Dan would always tell us, you are the first generation. You are getting it directly from Bruce and me to you. Now, the first night I showed up, Dan said, throw a punch. Now, I was by no means cocky or arrogant, but I did consider myself pretty formidable, having a few black belts and some real-world street fighting experience. So I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, throw a punch. So I thought, okay, what the heck, and I went ahead and threw what I thought was a pretty good punch. I ended up crashing into the wall behind him, and I never saw what happened. I said, how did you do that? He said, I used my yi, my intention. So I said, I'm in. I'm here every Wednesday night. And that night, he showed us the intention drill, also known as the fire drill, that I start every one of my seminars with to this day. It's an experience that changed my life forever and was truly a light switch moment on my warrior's journey. It literally transformed not only my martial arts, but my daily life. You see, in Kung Fu, there is a principle called Yi. It's spelled Y-I, and it means intention in a very pure and powerful way. Intention is one of the most misunderstood and ignored, yet most powerful forces you can harness, because when you combine confidence and skills with intention, you become virtually unstoppable in your endeavors. That's how Bruce Lee was able to accomplish so much in his short lifespan and continues to inspire future generations around the world. You see, ultimately, martial arts means taking control and empowering yourself. So in addition to the physical martial arts, I studied what I call the mental martial arts with equal passion. And I got my hands on every book and course that could possibly be found on the ninja, the samurai, the great warriors, the great leaders, success, motivation, personal development, sales, seduction, negotiation, fitness, bodybuilding, all of it. I had an unquenchable appetite for empowerment and knowledge, and so I sought it out. And I traveled around training with the very best of the best, eventually being trained and certified in hypnotherapy, Silva mind control, and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming or nerve language programming. And I became very proficient in these mental martial arts, an expert, just like I was in the physical martial arts. I opened up a very successful martial arts academy, and I noticed that people kept coming to me more and more for the mental trainings. And even after classes, students would come up with questions about life problems. Should I marry this girl? How can I buy a car? How can I increase my business? They wanted to conquer in different areas of life. They might not have used the term conquer, but that's exactly what they were trying to do, and I would help them do it. It's about getting awesome results on the battlefield of life, and that's what we were doing. So one night, I decided I need to reach more people with this message, not just my community and local students, but worldwide. I needed this message out there, the message of mental martial arts and how they can be used to attain victory in everyday life. No other trainer was teaching this. They might give it a cursory nod at best, but no other trainers were teaching this thoroughly and in a way that was easy to understand and access. So I developed an audio and video program called Mental Warfare Secrets. It became a worldwide bestseller, and I started getting tons of feedback from people who were getting huge results with what they had learned. They were being empowered, they were being inspired, and they were getting results. Stacks of fan mail and accolades. And I started getting invited to speak at corporate events, retreats, conferences, and I started giving my own seminars all over the country. And I was doing plenty of media interviews, and I must say it was a dream come true to be invited to Black Belt Magazine's headquarters several times where they interviewed me, and I would also write articles for them. And it was a huge honor to be inducted into the Martial Arts Hall of Fame twice, first as Author of the Year, and then for a Lifetime Achievement Award. Through everything I've learned, all of my experiences and trainings, I stumbled upon a formula. I discovered the keys to conquering life. And one of the most crucial components in being a conqueror is to have confidence. We discussed that at the beginning of this webinar. Your confidence affects everything you do in life. The unconscious seed of doubt is all that is needed for your mind to avoid taking courageous actions. This is often referred to as approach avoidance. But when you are truly confident, you summon up a power that's like wind in your sails and you go farther than you thought you could. You punch faster and harder. You are more persuasive. You are more dynamically attractive and you have more peace of mind and you're more effective in everything you set out to accomplish. When you're confident, you even sleep better at night, and success comes easier and faster to the confident person than one who is riddled with self-doubt. So if you follow the steps I lay out for you in this webinar, you can get rid of your self-doubt and become unstoppably confident. And the first thing we're going to do is strike the root. Bruce Lee said that once you understand the root, you understand all of its blossoming. And think about how profound and true that really is. To kill a tree, you don't trim the leaves. No, you tear out the root. If you have a terrorist trying to kill you, the best thing to do is go for the throat. And that's where the term go for the throat comes from. It means going for it in life. It means taking action. Most people never take action, but taking action is the only way to be a conqueror. Most people sit on their hands. They hold their tongue when they want to say something. You, my friends, are here right now taking action. And that's why you, my friend, are of the conqueror's class. So fellow conqueror, let's strike the root right now of unstoppable confidence. In order to do that, we just need to look at human nature itself. And I'm also going to give you some killer mental warfare techniques in addition to the 3 master keys of unstoppable confidence. Yes, I'm giving you more than promised. Now listen, right now, people are doing what they're doing, thinking the way they're thinking, acting the way they're acting, and being the way that they're being for a payoff. And there are 4 payoffs. The 4 payoffs are looking good, feeling good, being right, and being in control. Now write these down. The 4 payoffs are looking good or not looking bad, feeling good or not feeling bad, being right or not being wrong, and being in control or not being controlled. See, either a towards or an away from. Most people are actually an away from. They just don't want to look bad. See? Now that you know these 4 payoffs, you have a key the key to motivation into everyone and a key to their confidence, and your own as well, as you'll soon discover. Listen, everyone is looking for these four things or their reverse. Most people want to be right. Most people want to look good. They don't want to look bad. That's why every television show you see, think about it. You ever watch a stupid sitcom and you'll notice that someone will say something witty to the other person and the canned laughter comes in and everyone laughs? Well, the writers and producers and directors and even the actors, they know this. They understand this weakness in human nature, and that's why they put it in there, because everyone wants to look good and be right. So if someone can say something witty and have everyone laugh, they feel cool, or they look good, or they look right. So knowing the four payoffs is a very powerful weapon, and you must use it with integrity. Remember what Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you use it to take unfair advantage of other people, it will backfire on you. That's just how the universe works. But now that you know these four payoffs, you have a key to motivation and to people. I'll give you one small example I used recently. My wife and I pulled into a crowded restaurant. The parking lot was full and she said, "Oh no, we'll never get a table." I said, "Watch this, you're with Jedi." Right away a car pulled out and I was able to park right in front. I was completely confident before we even got there. We walked in and the hostess said, "It's a 20-minute wait." So I looked her in the eye with a slight smile and a look of kindness and I said, "I'd sure appreciate it if you can find us a table." And then I looked over her shoulder. She looked at her manager, who nodded, and she sat us right away. You see, I was confident. I had no attachment or emotional response to the possibility of not being seated. I was also kind with the look in my eyes and my voice and my slight smile, and I gave an embedded command. "I'd sure appreciate it if you can find us a table." "You can find us a table" was the command. She would have felt bad not seating us at that point. They almost get embarrassed not to break the rules in your favor, and that's one small example. You can use it in the boardroom. You could use it when negotiating with a Fortune 500 CEO. It's all the same principle. The four payoffs are looking good, feeling good, being right, or being in control. The four payoffs are the human motivators, and you can use them to your advantage. Knowing this alone should increase your confidence. You know, had I directly opposed that waitress, I said, "What do you mean? I see a table over there," she would have clung to being in control and being right. So instead, I used the looking good. She looks bad if she won't politely comply with my sweet and kind request and my embedded command. I didn't directly oppose her. Let's think about it. How do you stop a moving train? How do you stop a moving train? Well, you don't stand in front of it and say, "Halt." No, you run alongside of it and you match its tempo. Then you grab hold and jump on, and now the train is carrying you. Then you just calmly climb up and pull the brake, and you've stopped a moving train using a non-linear attack. And this is literally how ideas get implanted in people's heads, and they think it was their own idea. They want to be in control or not be controlled, and they want to be right. And so this is how it happens, my friends, and that's why I'm giving you this information. Because knowing the four payoffs, you can ask yourself, what am I doing? What payoff am I really trying to get? And you get that objective detachment, which comes to the first master key of unstoppable confidence. Write this down right now. Master key number 1 is relinquish attachment to the outcome. Relinquish attachment to the outcome. This is actually the way to get rid of fear. When you relinquish attachment to the outcome, you are free to be tactically optimal. You're totally free. You have every option in the world when you're not attached to the outcome. You ever hear the one about the monkey who's on a raft and he's got his hand in a jar holding onto a quarter, and so he can't pull his hand out, and that raft is going toward the waterfall. He is stuck. He is attached to the outcome of getting that quarter. So by relinquishing attachment to the outcome, you get freed up. You get liberated. And a liberated man is a confident man. You see, the opposite of confidence is fear. They simply cannot coexist. So when you relinquish attachment to the outcome, you become liberated and confident. Now, some people say fear is your friend. And that's foolish. Fear is not your friend and does not serve you in any way. Now, if you're walking across the street and you look up and you see a big truck coming at you 50 miles per hour and you jump out of the way just in time, that wasn't fear that saved you. That was adrenaline. And then when you look back, you go, I was so afraid. No, it's adrenaline. And in the moment, you moved. You did not freeze up like a deer in the headlights. You see, fear is your enemy. Fear is the opposite of confidence. And the first way to eliminate fear is to relinquish attachment to the outcome. Let's use a street attack as an analogy. Relinquish attachment to your life or not getting hurt. Now, I'm not saying don't fight for your life or any stupid esoteric nonsense like that. I'm saying don't let the fear of death or harm freeze you up when you're under attack. By understanding this and not freezing like a deer caught in the headlights, your attacker will smell the spirit of strength and resolve in you, which is also the smell of his own possible death or harm, and he may retreat, he may become fearful himself, or never attack you in the first place. And if he does attack you, he'll do so on less sure feet, giving you more opportunity to stop him cold. You become much more dangerous and powerful when you're not attached to the outcome. Now, there is a term that comes from the samurai. It's a concept, and it's called mushin. And I want you to write this down, mushin, M-U-S-H-I-N. It means mind, no mind. It means to not be deliberate and just turn off your internal dialogue. So you're half there, half not there. You're aware, but not attached. It actually gives you more believability because when you're desperate or overeager, you actually cast out an energy that actually repels what you want or who you want away from you. That super attachment actually repels when you're too attached. But when you're liberated because you've relinquished attachment to the outcome, and this is by very definition what mushin means. And those samurai, think about it, their daily job was to go out into the battlefield and risk getting their head cut off while trying to cut off their opponent's head. That's a place where you need to have a very sharp and clear mind. When your mind stops on your opponent's sword, you will be taken by his sword. Mushin is a mind that doesn't stop. Now here's what's really interesting. When you're not attached to the outcome, when you're in the state of mushin, it's pure confidence, baby, because mind, no mind, or mushin, actually turns off the 4 payoffs. It sets you objective so that you're not subject to emotions and desires and the manipulations of others, which naturally makes you more confident. And how do you do it? Well, you do it by practice in daily life. You remind yourself. Think about the word remind. Remind, coming back to your mind. This is the original mind. This is your real mind. It's the space between thoughts. And by practicing mushin in daily life, the more and more you get there. It's like building muscle. It's like lifting weights. The more you do it, the stronger you get. And the better you get at it. And you can start immediately. Now, master key number 2 to unstoppable confidence is emotional control. Emotional control. And I want you to write that down because we are not our feelings. There are certain forces and powers out there that would like us to believe we are our feelings and we can't change them, and therefore we have to go with them or medicate them. But guess what? You can choose how you feel in every moment. You absolutely can. The powers that be don't want you to know that because a weak and sensualized populace is easier to control. Sheep are easier to herd than lions. Now you might say to me, Scott, what if I suddenly found out a loved one passed away? Wouldn't I be sad? Wouldn't I be able to not control my sorrow and crying? Of course, but that's a process you go through, and in the end, you don't let it destroy you. Thus, you're practicing emotional control. And events like that will be very few over your lifetime. What I'm talking about is your daily life. In daily life and the challenges you face, you will either live by default, where your emotions control you, or by design, where you control your emotions. Controlling your emotions is being at cause instead of effect. And if you don't control your emotions, your emotional response transfers control away from you. Your emotional response transfers control to your attacker, Your emotional response transfers control to what you desire. Your emotional response transfers control to circumstances. Now, I'm going to give you a real world example right now so you can really see this concept. It is crucial. Years ago as a teenager, I was driving with my brother, and the old red lights came on in the rearview mirror. I was a passenger, he was driving, and the cops turned their lights on. Okay? Damn, my brother said, and he slammed the dash and pulled over. He was clearly expecting a ticket. He looked highly agitated and his face turned red, yet from the passenger seat, I had a totally different and objective view. I said, "Bro, relax, you don't know what's up yet. Why don't you just see what he wants? Maybe you have a tail light out or something." To which my brother curtly replied, "Just shut up, Scott." So the cop came to the window, and my brother scowled and thrust his driver's license and insurance right at the cop. The cop said, "Do you know how fast you were going back there?" My brother said, "I don't know," in an impatient tone. The cop said, "You were doing 40 and the speed limit here is 30. My brother just scowled with a frustrated and helpless look on his face. The cop said, "I'll be right back," and proceeded to write the ticket, just as my brother emotionally expected. He responded emotionally. Now, it may sound like an old cliche, but you really get what you expect. My brother's vocal tone, his attitude, his emotional response, his very energy, all that he was putting out was, "Damn it, I'm gonna get a ticket." And so he did get the ticket. Now here's what's interesting. A few weeks later, lo and behold, there I am, driving myself, and the red lights come on in the rearview mirror. My heart jumped for a second, as it does with most folks, and in that moment a crucial thing happened. I remembered back to my brother's incident that he had responded emotionally, and I consciously intuited a different path. So I took a few deep breaths and relaxed, and I chose to keep cool and not respond emotionally. And the cop said, "Do you know how fast you were going?" Now, remember, cops are used to one of two things when they pull you over. Either you fess up or you try to BS them. In their line of work, they're pretty good at detecting a BSer, so it's best to just look them in the eye and tell the truth. Also, this breaks the pattern of expectancy. Now listen to this carefully. It's automated by their experience with all the people they pull over. In that pattern, they're very used to writing a ticket, so by breaking the expectancy pattern, you in fact break the automated ticket writing pattern. So here's what I did, non-emotionally. I said, "Yeah, I was going a little too fast. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention. Could you give me a break?" He said, to my surprise and delight, "Okay, but watch your speed." And he handed back my driver's license. I anchored in this feeling and the phenomenon that occurred. I compared it to what my brother did, and I realized controlling my own energy and being congruent with it in my communication and having emotional control could give me the outcome I wanted. Now, being a teen driver, I got pulled over lots, and I did get a few tickets, but most of the time, even as an adult, and more times than I can count, I got a break. My kids have seen it countless times. Passengers in my car have been amazed when they see me do this. I'm serious. Here's why. Some cops will give you a break, and some won't. They're people too, and in spite of what you think, they aren't always looking for ways to screw your day over. But if you have an emotional response that says cop equals ticket or cop equals bad day, then you will send off that kind of energy. Since ultimately we're all made of energy, the moment you go into ticketed mode, the cop goes into ticket writing mode. Make sense? Remember, the cop that would give you a break won't if you're casting off the emotional response of being ticketed. But by using emotional control and also not being attached to not getting a ticket, I got out of more tickets than I can count. And here's another great example of the fun benefits of emotional control. Years ago in a college class, there was a new girl who came to the class. All the guys swooned. They went like bees to honey, surrounding her like cattle at the trough. And I turned to my friend George and I said, "George, she's going to come to me." And he goes, "Scott, really?" Kind of smiled. I said, "Yeah, watch." So I didn't go over there and I didn't ooh and ah and oogle. Instead, when she caught my eye across the room, I just kind of smirked and looked down. Sure enough, she came over to me. Why? Because she is used to all the attention. So subconsciously, energetically, she was saying, why isn't he coming over here? What's different about him? And she just had to satisfy that curiosity. And by the way, that ended up being a very fun relationship. Yes, my friends, being confident and having emotional control makes life so much more fun. Now, mastery key number 3 for unstoppable confidence is one of the most powerful principles you will ever learn for conquering life and for being ultimately confident. And I have seen this principle throughout many great warriors, whether it's the art of war, Napoleon, Bruce Lee, all successful and powerful men throughout history have used this principle. And I want you to write this down right now. Be alpha. Be alpha, because it's the only way to get what you want, to conquer, to win, is to be alpha. The alpha principle is the law of attack. Life is war. War is an acronym for we are ready. Now, I don't mean going out and starting fights and arguments. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is tactical aggression. You see, aggression breeds confidence. Attack means taking action, and that is being the alpha. The alpha is the leader, like the alpha male. You've heard of the alpha male? Well, the alpha, I want you to picture an A. An alpha is the tip of the spear. It cuts through, it makes progress. I want you to imagine a line being drawn in the sand. You're out there on a field in the sand, you draw a line and your friend is standing in front of you. And he pushes you, and he keeps pushing you back and pushing you back and pushing you back. And you're losing ground. In life, you're either losing ground or gaining ground. And the only way to gain ground is to use the alpha principle and attack. Because when you attack, you expand. And when you don't attack, when you don't take action, when you hold back, you contract. You are either expanding or contracting. You're either gaining ground or losing ground. Oh, there is no stagnant. There is no stagnant. At one time, $10 an hour was probably really good money, maybe in like 1918, but now it's not. Because life is moving, life is war. So you will either expand or contract. You will either attack or lose ground. Thus, attacking, taking action, is the only way to get what you want, and the only way to become unstoppably confident, combining it, of course, with the first 2 keys, relinquishing attachment to the outcome and emotional control. And then you use the alpha principle of attack, which means taking action with tactical aggression, and you win, my friends. This is the way to unstoppable confidence and the way to victory. My friends, I have just given you some very powerful information